You guys all set?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Good evening. Welcome to the January 13th, 2026 meeting of the Oshkosh Common Council. City Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Spanbauer.
Here.
Flom.
Here.
Buelow.
Here.
Stevenson.
Here.
Nichols. Excused. Amos.
Here.
And Muckrower.
Here. Leading us in the invocation this evening will be Councilmember Spanbauer.
We ask for guidance tonight as we begin this meeting. May all those who participate in our discussions and our decisions reflect the values that we cherish in this great city.
Tonight we're fortunate to have a student from Martin Luther Lutheran School. Talon, if you wouldn't mind joining me up front. You guys can all stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you for being here tonight, helping lead us in the pledge here. We have Talon, and again, from Martin Luther Lutheran School. If you want to tell us maybe favorite subject, favorite teacher, and if you have a favorite sport, you can go that way too.
My favorite teacher is Miss Hagland. And my favorite subject is history. It's really my favorite. Did you know Anne Boleyn had 6 fingers?
No. Well, thank you again for being here. Very nicely done. Thank you again for bringing it.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, next up is public statements to council. Public's to address the council only. Statements are limited to 5 minutes. Must address items that are not listed on this meeting's agenda, limited to issues that have an impact on the city of Oshkosh and that we, the common council, may address at a future meeting, and must not include any endorsements of any candidates or other electioneering. And council's not able to respond to questions, comments, or remarks during this time. It's not a discussion period, but it's an opportunity for the public to address us, the council. Mr. Strong, I think you wanted to speak to us. If you wouldn't mind coming on up, give us your name and address, and then you'll have 5 minutes. Welcome. Good evening.
Hi. So my name is Dennis Strong, and my mailing address is 448 Algoma Boulevard. What I came to speak to the city of Oshkosh today is last February, I had a conversation with Captain Rebecca Kaiser of the Oshkosh Police Department. She was the captain of the investigator division. Ms. Kaiser went on the record with me stating she knows all about the Good Old Boys Club of government corruption in Outagamie County. Well, I could tell you what, with that little smart mouth of what was said there, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Because I've ascertained just as good down here. Your eye on Oshkosh, Oshkosh media has publicized a handful of broadcasts over the years. Some of them dated, trying to assassinate the characters of prominent people of the community, being officers of the court. Some that served the bench in Outagamie County that were unfounded. Unfounded. Your kittyland little broadcast media outlet, Oshkosh Media, did those. What I came to speak about today is depicted on camera footage at the Oshkosh Police Department this afternoon. It is not an isolated incident. I brought it up in past to the city attorney, other administrators of the police department. With what occurred today, if it was the U.S. Department of Justice, there's a special training that would be required for their officers or staff called sensitivity training. I'm cutting through, coming from the district attorney's office, going over to the county building where I met with Gordon Hintz's staff and corporate counsel. I filed a $50,000 notice of claim against the Winnebago County Sheriff's Department today. There's an active John Doe investigation this county assigned that's been deferred to the district attorney's office regarding censorship on the Sheriff's Department's social media platform with my posting that is not consistent with other local agencies in this area. As I'm going en route to do that, Donnie, who works the clerical desk in the lobby, cutting through there, she comes out from behind the glass and removes the citizen chairs out of the lobby and pulls them into the locked doors. For no other reason, I'm pro-police, I'm pro-government. She did that for no other reason but to show disdain, unjust disdain. And in fact, since that is depicted on video footage, your city clerk will receive a $50,000 notice of claim for damages for that because it is not isolated. There have been a pattern of that woman's behaviors consistent with that date all the way back to 11 months ago in February, when she screamed hysterically behind the glass and pulled the curtain down when I was speaking about matters of a public concern. The particulars of all that, the dialogue that we heard that day, I won't delve into today, but because this is not an isolated incident, and the taxpayers of this city are paying that person's wages, and it's been addressed on multiple occasions to the city attorney's office of this city, to both Amy and Lynn, and it's been swept under the rug. And what I just stated today is depicted on the video footage that I will obtain by open records. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next up, we have consent agenda. I don't have anybody else registered to speak, and there's nobody else in the public that wants to speak, correct? Good. Next up is consent agenda. I'll take a motion, second on consent.
So moved. Second.
I don't have anybody registered for consent either. Discussion. Mr. Bueller.
Item 25, Resolution 2613, I just want to be full transparent here. The applicant is Nate Considine. I found out during the Plan Commission portion of this that he is first cousins with my partner. I didn't even know that until this came up. I've never met him. We have no financial interest. I have no conflict in voting on this, but I just wanted to be clarifying that he is distantly related to my partner.
Councilmember Spanbauer.
I just wanted to thank the staff for the work on Resolution 2602, the approved distributed energy resource agreement with Voltus. This is the kind of innovative look I think we should be taking in looking at our utilities and how we can generate some extra revenue. So I just wanted to give props and kudos to staff for working on that.
Excellent. Any other comments or questions on consent-related items? If not, City Clerk, if you'll take the roll on consent.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Flom.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Carried.
A couple new ordinances this evening. Ordinance 26-01. Amends Section 27A11 of the City of Oshkosh Municipal Code, removing parking regulations on sections of Central Street, New York Avenue, and Tennessee Avenue, and Transportation Committee recommends approval.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on this? I'll take the roll.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Flom.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Ordinance 26-02, amend Section 27A-8 of the City of Oshkosh Municipal Code to designate Mason Street as a through street at the intersection of 6th Avenue. Transportation Committee recommends approval.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Please take the roll.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Flom.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Ordinance 26-03 amends Section 27A-10 of the City of Oshkosh Municipal Code to designate a two-way yield-controlled intersection at Rykow Street and West 6th Avenue. Transportation Committee recommends approval.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. You can take the roll.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Plum.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mulgrauer.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Ordinance 26-04, approve comprehensive land use plan map amendment from light-density residential to mixed use for property located at the south end of Eichstad Road and east of Vinland Street. This is the Valley Christian School site. Plan Commission recommends approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? I see none. When you're ready.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Plum.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mulgrauer.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Moving right along. Ordinance 26-05, approve requests to annex West Furneaux Avenue annexation to the city from the town of Oshkosh, located at the west 3100 block of Jackson Street. Plan Commission recommends approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I see none. When you're ready.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Plum.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mulgrauer.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
2607 and 2606 and 2607 have been withdrawn. Moves us to new resolutions. We just have a couple. Resolution 26-27, agreement for a clinical director for the Oshkosh Fire Department peer support team. Nobody registered. I'll take a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll take the roll on 26-27.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Plum.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mulgrauer.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Next item, Resolution 26-28, establish early in-person absentee voting location, dates, and times for February 17th, 2026 spring primary and April 7th, 2026 spring election. I do have one individual who'd like to speak on this one, but did you want to provide some additional context on this one, the next one, or kind of both?
Both, kind
Okay.
of. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, Margie.
If you'll give us just a second, I think there's some more
Yeah.
information that staff wants to make sure we're all aware of.
I just wanted to let everyone know, and after talking with Darla, for the in-person absentee locations, what we need to, the deadline of the decision that needs to be made today is the location. It doesn't need to be the dates and times. So I know there's been some discussion and concerns about access and dates and, the later days or weekends and things like that. So my recommendation would be if there's a concurrence of the location, which we can talk, in more detail if there's concerns regarding using the Culver Center. But if there's concurrence regarding that maybe we take out the parts where establishing the dates and the times, but the location, there's a requirement that needs to be decided tonight.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to talk about the next, are you going to talk separately or
Yeah, she's,
on both of them?
Ms. Davies going to speak on both items separately.
Okay, because I do have some context on the second one, so I don't know if you want me to wait until,
Probably.
okay.
Take them.
Unless, since they're going to be two separate things, unless it overlaps, and then,
Well,
of course, then go ahead.
It just overlaps because it has to do with the elections and the time that was taken and put into figuring out the different locations, but we can provide more context after this.
Okay, yeah, why don't we do that? So then, if, Ms. Davy, if you wouldn't mind, come on up, floor is yours, 5 minutes, keep it to the topic at hand, which happens to be the early in-person absentee voting location dates and times for spring elections.
Yes, and I am here tonight representing the League of Women Voters. I'm really happy to see that you've been presented with an alternative to holding early voting at the East Irving location. Every single one of those challenges that was in that memo are so valid. And it's very nice to see that you are opting for, I hope you opt for the Culver Welcome Center. I would also recommend that the site have a large sign notifying voters for curbside voting that is available and what the phone number is to make that happen. And the rest of what I had to say has to do with the early voting hours. So I will skip that for now, but I may be back next time.
This is,
This is the early
This
vote.
would be the time to talk about.
if you wanted, yeah, if you
How about
wanted.
the hours? Yes.
Okay, I can keep talking, I'm good at that. Last year, in support of the voters who work the same hours that are currently scheduled for the early voting site, evening and weekend hours were added. We need to be working to accommodate more voters, not less. Until our country decides to make Election Day a national holiday, the least we can do locally is to provide at least one evening and one weekend option outside of normal work hours. So I was going to ask you to please put those back in. That's all I had to say on early voting.
Okay, sounds good. Then we will call you back for the next one. I've got one other person on the next one too, so. All right, if I can get a motion and a second for 26-28 to put on the floor.
So moved. Second.
Discussion from council.
Beat you.
Yep, Deputy Mayor, followed by Councilmember Spanbauer.
No, I like the change to the Culver Center. I think it's going to be, it's a lot more public-facing venue. It's along one of our major corridors. While the Irving site was a lot easier for me because I live 2 blocks away, it's kind of tucked away. I think a lot of those drawbacks that you illustrated are really evident there. So I'm in full support of moving to the Culver Center. I guess did you guys think about doing like a Saturday or an evening? Did that come up at all during?
Yes.
Do you want to speak on that at all?
The evening hours are something that we talked about, and to be completely honest, we didn't kind of land one way or another. The main concern with February on this one was how many events were already scheduled that second week of early voting. So we basically took, all right, let's take every day that you can. I do think that there is some opportunity to stay later that first week, but there is not any opportunity to use the Culver Center for that second week that normally would be there. Weekend hours, we did not discuss for February. There is an additional cost for booking them on the weekend. It is $1,000 a day to book it, and we definitely can look into it. I guess my concern was I was so happy to have the availability for April, August, and November. February seemed like, okay, if this is the only negative on the timeline, we can take that. Yep.
Just for clarification, because I didn't press my button, did we do an evening or weekend during the primary last year?
I was told that we did one evening, and.
I know we did during the general, of
I wrote
course,
it down, one evening, and there were 0 voters that came. That was for the February 2025, and then the Saturday, there were 2 voters that came.
That was for the,
That was for the February 2025 spring primary.
sorry, just evening or weekend one?
The 2 voters was for the Saturday.
Okay.
The 0 voters was on the late night.
Okay.
And then, so cost impact to do, like, one weekend is just $1,000, right?
Plus
And then-
staff.
Per day,
Oh, plus staff, sure.
and staffing.
And then the evening is, what does that look like? Is that just a couple hours after, like, 5 o'clock, or what? do we
Yeah,
do
I mean, you
weekend?
guys can tell me how long, what extra time. The cost there was a per day. They didn't give us a per hour.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, yeah, you guys can go.
Councilmember Spanbauer, then followed by Mr. Flom.
Just noting to avoid any conflict of interest, because this is my employer, I'll be voting present.
Mr. Flom?
Couple things. Clerk Salinas, I just want to thank you for your work on this. You tried a number of sites. The Armory was mentioned, the Convention Center was mentioned, staying at 19 East Irving was mentioned. I want to thank you for your research that you did on this. Personally, 19 East Irving is not a sustainable location for us. The lines were out the door and around the corner. People had a tough time parking. People got parking tickets. There was just simply, it was a bit of a mess, in my opinion. I was there, I saw it. So I think starting from a clean slate and moving to a new location is fantastic. I'd like to see that. In terms of weekend voting, if we only got 2 voters on a Saturday in February for the last spring primary, I would be in the camp of not continuing that specifically for February, but for April, August, and November, I'd be fine with maintaining it for that, but that's just my 2 cents on it. If we are stripping the dates and times for this resolution, that would be a consideration I would have, but if we're not, then we'll just proceed as is.
Councilmember Buelow?
Question for you. I know a while ago, one of the concerns with the convention center was having to secure the machines at the end of the night. Do we have a way to secure the machines at the Culver Center? Do we have to remove them every night? How does that work?
So remember, for early in-person voting, there's no machines.
yeah.
Yep, it's laptops and ballots is really what it comes down to. And we, as a team, will be transporting the ballots back here every single night.
Okay.
Yep, so they will be stored here.
That's what I was thinking about for like the late night voting is how early we had to get out to, but that's a lot easier to secure that, obviously. Even if it's only 2, I would want to see a Saturday option and make sure that it's well published. I never want to see going backwards in voting opportunities and options, the best that we can. I do know, obviously, $1,000 for 2 people to be able to vote is definitely not economical, but if it's, I look at it more, it'd be $1,000 spent for the opportunity to vote that day, and maybe we just need to publicize it more, I don't know. I also want to raise up the suggestion of having good signage on how to do curbside voting at the location, because it's a longer walk than East Irving, but part of that is because it has parking that East Irving doesn't. So just making sure that we have that more clarified.
Okay. City Manager, you want to go before Mr. Amos goes?
It's up to, I was just going to make a suggestion that we do not include the dates and times, just so we can verify with the Culver Center
Okay.
that it's available.
Okay.
I don't know if that helped
Okay.
interrupted what you were
No,
going to
no.
say, or, but that's, so, I don't know, I think you would agree that would be.
I would agree.
Better.
Okay, we'll get there before we
Yes.
action anything, Mr. Amos, and then followed by Deputy Mayor again.
So I am definitely in favor of the Culver Center. I think it's a good path to go down as far as like having a location where more voters can come and vote and the process can just be more efficient. But my concern is residents that are used to voting on Irving Street and that's not able to get to the new location, whether that's they don't have a car, they're not just physically able to walk that far of a distance, but maybe able to get to Irving. So I guess my question is it possible to have Irving and the Culver Center open?
In regard to transportation, the Culver Center is on the bus route, so that is, a possibility as far as accessible transportation. Rebecca and I were speaking earlier about the possibility of having 2 sites. We know in a Class 1 city, like Milwaukee, they do have a lot more authority
Yeah.
to do things like that. To our knowledge, and this was a conversation we just had, 30 minutes ago, it is not allowed in a Class 2 city.
But we can definitely look into it, but for now, we have to establish it for tonight. I think the other thing I would just want to add, which is why I pushed my button, but there's also other options for people to get transportation. We have a senior dial-a-ride for 60 and older, ADA paratransit services. We have cabs and rideshare options, and I know that there's some nonprofits or churches that do provide service for people to get to location. So whatever, we will, as part of our communication plan of this, we would definitely, highlight those things for people. Because, yeah, it is very confusing when you move from one place to another and it's convenient. But all of the negatives, I wasn't here, but I've heard a lot of feedback on Irving. I think if we do a good job of communicating and if people reach out, if they have some issues, we can work out and mitigate those, hopefully.
Great. And I just want to clarify, so is this just for the election day that's in February, and moving forward, like more locations would be open?
So this is for the early in-person voting. So we're looking to approve for February and April, which is considered an election cycle. So whatever we approve for February, we need to stay consistent with, says WEC, or Wisconsin Elections Commission, for April. If we wanted to relook at it for the August-November cycle, we definitely can.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I would not suggest that, though, but.
I wouldn't either, but it's possible.
Yes,
We
it is
will have to
possible.
approve,
Yeah.
since the resolution in front of you is only for those 2 elections. So we will have to eventually come back and approve our early in-person voting location for August and November as well. And on the curbside thing, I did just want to make one comment on that. I actually already have all new curbside voting signs for all of our polling locations, so not just for, that was something that I saw was lacking here right away. So that is fixed.
Excellent. Deputy Mayor, followed by, nobody. Deputy Mayor.
If I can assuage your fears a little bit, the Irving site is kind of relatively new anyway.
Okay.
So it's, I don't know if there were probably any built-in habits yet. I mean, it's probably like 2 years, I think
I
we've had
think it's,
that.
yeah, I think it's 2 years that
Yeah.
Irving was maintained, 24 and 25.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything else was at City Hall beforehand.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess regarding, we have to decide on a facility today. So, I mean, I think I'm okay with the times here. Can I give like a condition that says we have one after hours, one weekend, and staff will determine those times? Does that give you guys latitude? Can we approve it all in one go doing that right now?
I think if you would say if it's available.
If it's-
I don't want you to tell us a weekend and then,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and I guess to that point where, again, we're approving a location right now.
yeah.
Hypothetically, you're not going to come back and say, we couldn't find a weekend and we can't change the location,
No.
right? So
But
I
we
mean-
don't, we just, I mean, I just want to be flexible
Yeah.
and not set expectations
Yeah.
that we might not be able to.
So I guess in my mind, we have to, we would be effectively approving the times today as well, if we're locking in a location. So, I mean, I would, if I make a motion, does that derail conversation or does that feel?
Press their buttons, I'm fine with it.
Okay, I guess.
Have a chance?
I would make a motion to direct staff, to an amendment to this, to direct staff to have one evening and one Saturday, to try to find one evening and one Saturday for the Culvers location.
Second.
Take that second back for a second,
I repeal my second.
if possible.
If possible.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion that's been, motion to amend that's been put forward? Mr. Bulow.
My only question on the motion to amend, and obviously it's a smaller dollar amount that you can normally spend by yourself, but because it has a budgetary impact of whether we can do that Saturday or not, would we have to approve that again anyway?
No.
No, okay.
Councilmember Amos.
Really quick, I just want to, and I know you already said it, but I just want to clarify for people that may be watching or whatever. So there can only be one location that's open for February and April.
That's our understanding
Okay.
in our class of a city. I mean,
Okay.
we,
Milwaukee is different.
yeah, we haven't really had the opportunity to look into it in detail. I mean, we literally we started talking about it when we got your email. So,
All right.
but we can certainly, look into that and, if the next cycle we need, we would have 2 locations. I think some of the other challenges, admittedly, I didn't read all of the words of the memo, but I know there's a lot of challenges not only for the public, but just internally using that location, the setup and technology and all of those things, so.
I think just like for the residents, I think it'd be good if we just look into it, I guess, for the future.
Yeah, before we vote, or actually, this is just the amendment only, so I got nothing on the amendment, actually. If there's nothing else on the motion to amend, if you'll take the roll on just the motion to amend, that's including one evening and one Saturday, if possible.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Flom.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
6-0.
All right, we're back to the motion as amended now on the floor. Appreciate staff's time on this, trying to improve the voting experience for any and all. That's a positive thing. Irving, I don't want to knock Irving Street too bad. It wasn't the most efficient, but it did serve a need, and it did its purpose for a very short amount of time. I think a UWO Culver Welcome Center is a very centrally located, easily accessible facility that can accommodate our size of elections and the amount of people that turn out for our elections in person early, and I think it's a great spot. And I'm glad you did the work, and I'm glad it's turning out this way. And in terms of, I know we talked about the cost at all. I just want to make it really clear, like when it comes to elections, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's whatever it takes to get it done. And I know that I feel very confident saying that that's what this body always agrees to, but when it comes to elections, you got to do what you got to do. And if it costs a couple bucks and we don't get a couple people there, that is okay. And that's the cost of our democracy and our freedom and our ability to do what we do at the ballot box. So if there's nothing else, if you'll take the roll on 26-28 as amended.
Spanbauer.
Present.
Flom.
Aye.
Buelow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
5-1.
Next up, Resolution 26-29. This is to establish polling place locations for all 2026 City of Oshkosh elections. And I think you've got some more
Yeah.
information to share, and then I do have two people in the public that
Yeah.
want to speak.
I just wanted to, first of all, thank the city clerk for all of her hard work in getting this to where we are today. She started in November. This was like one of our first discussions, even before you started, was you need to pick up where the previous clerk had left off, looking at the polling locations. I think, people don't always, as a previous clerk, I understand the work that it takes to put everything together and the things that you look at. There were some concerns with various polling locations. Now, in an ideal world, we could double or triple the locations, but that's just not feasible. There's a lot of things we have to look at. We have to look at the ability to staff, the accessibility. There's a lot of the sites that weren't necessarily ADA accessible. There's a lot of sites that didn't provide heat or AC that made the voters or the people working there comfortable. There's a lot of sites that maybe just had one electrical outlet or two outlets. Now, if you're familiar with us, we use the Badger books, we have printers, there's all types of things that need to be plugged in. And not only that, we also try to find places where there's backup generators and things like that, so we can ensure continuity of voting. The accessible tools that people have to vote, they require electricity. So if someone's coming in, it's not the same as someone who is able to see or hear. We need to make sure we provide those type of things. So I know there's a lot of, concern and discussions regarding the number, but I think there's been a lot of due diligence to ensure that we make sure that it's accessible, that it's safe, we're compliant, and we have consistency among the areas. Also mentioned already, the transportation. There's a lot of different options for people on election day if they need to, if they don't have transportation. You can also do the early in-person, which we just talked about, or have ballots mailed to you. So there's a lot of different opportunities for people. So I just wanted to say that there's a lot of work and thought that goes into picking the locations, and as elections become more politicized, it becomes increasingly challenging for clerks to do their job well, and so I just really appreciate.
Thank you.
So that's my clerk's soapbox.
We allow soapboxes here. For those who've been around. Sorry. We have two people who'd like to speak to us. Before we do, we have Michael Patton, and then followed by Margie Davey. Mr. Patton, if you wouldn't mind coming on up. Keep the 5 minutes, and the topic at hand, which is establishing the polling places for the 2026 election, and welcome and good evening.
Thank you. Michael Patton, 2510 Hamilton Street. I come with both acknowledgement of all of the things that the city manager mentioned, and also with appreciation for the work the city clerk has done. I voted in this community for over 30 years. I might have missed an election, but probably not. So I take voting very seriously. That being said, I have a concern, particularly with accessibility and also with the aforementioned
It's very hard to say.
making it political as far as where people vote. I have had a couple of people express concern to me that not only that one of the locations is the National Guard Armory, but that it is the size of the location that it is. That that the way that the National Guard has been used, not around here, but elsewhere in the nation, may cause people to feel that they can't go and vote there safely. I completely agree with the concerns about size, parking, labor, setup, the idea that we want to use previously used locations so that people have some idea as to where those things are, as well as the concerns about room for people to be inside should the weather be bad, as well as handicap accessibility. As someone who doesn't like to come with just problems but solutions, I sent a packet to the board before coming. There are two maps on there, both essentially showing the same thing. The top map uses Google Earth to map out the existing voting locations for all the districts, as well as a new red pin for the new proposed location for the Armory. I know the memo that went out from the clerk said something about the, let me make sure I have the wording here. The Army location, the Armory building is a very large open space intended to be one of the city's primary locations, hosting wards 11, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 23. The location provides hundreds of parking spaces, is centrally located, plenty of room to wrap voter lines inside the building, and handicapped accessibility, et cetera. I would disagree with the comment that it's centrally located. I've lived here for over 30 years. I kind of know where it is, but and the only reason I know where it is because I will occasionally take Osborne Avenue to get to places on the frontage road. So I see the back entry. I wouldn't know where the front entry was until this came up. It is also more than a block and a half from a bus line, and if accessibility to the location is one of the things that we're looking at, I think that's a challenge. If you move to the second map, as I said, basically showing the same thing, the distance from the various green dots to the consolidated location of the blue dot, the distance from the top of District 9 is not insignificant. And I would think that might be a challenge for some of those voters if they don't have a car. Obviously, driving distances aren't a whole big deal, but if I was having to walk or take a bus, that might be a bit of a challenge. So my counter proposal, which is the numbers are on the final sheet. It shows where the existing polling places are for every district and ward. The proposal that came from the city clerk, as well as an alternative proposal in the third column. The back side of that sheet shows the number of votes in each of those locations based on the April 1st election ballots cast on election day. In the city's proposal, the smallest location is 1,393 ballots cast in April 1st. That is the West 9th location. That's not changing the alternative proposal. The largest location based on ballots cast in 2025, April 1st, city proposal was 6,298. That would be that Armory location. In the alternative proposal, where we move, instead of consolidating things in the Armory, spreading things out between the Culver Center, the Senior Citizen Center, and the airport, expanding that. That would have 6,292 votes cast in the largest location, which would be the airport. The airport is on the bus line, as are the other two locations. We still only have 9 polling locations, so we reduce size. We can still have the savings of staff, the consolidation of machines, so that if machines go bad, you haven't radically reduced the percentage of machines available to the voters. And so I would encourage you, and I realize it's short notice and you have to make a decision today, but I would encourage you to really rethink the Armory location as a place for the voting. And in that rethinking, I've given an alternative proposal. I'm sure there are things that, I haven't thought of because I am not intimately involved. And so this is not meant to denigrate the work of City Clerk Salinas. But I think there are things that maybe weren't considered as deeply, and I would like the council to think about that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Davey.
Okay, everything Mike said and a little bit more. I'm still speaking for the League of Women Voters. And I understand the economy of scale, not unlike what the schools are doing with the consolidation. I think there will be some very long lines at the convention center if there are, in fact, 4 wards, I'll put districts, not wards, districts, that all go in there. And the fact that when you said, well, you're adding Badger books, well, they're really just coming from those other sites, right? So it shouldn't slow things down, but it's really not going to speed them up either, because you'll have the same number of people coming through with the same number of Badger books, is my guess. And you can address that later if you, because I know you can't say anything about it right now. But I did just want to point that out. I think that that's a perception the public's going to have, and that maybe if you just say, you know, it's not going to slow anything down, that would be helpful. Other things, though, there will be voters who are truly disenfranchised, like those who can't walk. And I did look on the map, and we've already we've talked about the Armory, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, but that's a long walk for somebody who can't get there. And in a discussion that the League was having, and how could we possibly help this out, we went so far as to say maybe we could talk some people into loaning us their golf carts so we can give people rides. I mean, it's not that things are unattainable, it's just that it might not be the best idea. And with that, I'm just going to go back to 19 East Irving for a second. I just want to say, I think, having studied that site a lot for many different reasons in the last 2 years, I think we're just really lucky that there was nobody injured or killed between the parking situation and the interior. So I just wanted to throw that out there if you're thinking of going back that way. That would not be a good step, in my opinion. So there will also be people that feel that they're disenfranchised, people who don't trust the government already, they have frustration with it. And so I think by addressing this with a multi-pronged campaign to notify all eligible voters of a change to their polling place would be very helpful. I would say make sure everybody knows about myvotewisconsin.wi.com. Everybody should be checking that before every election, because you never know when you will be kicked off a voter roll without your knowledge. So, and that's not, I'm not, what's the word? Politicizing that. I'm just stating a fact, okay? Want to be clear on that. In case you don't know, the League of Women Voters is a political organization, but we are nonpartisan. So we just care about voting. I would suggest that in addition to everything else you've planned, and I know there's a lot, and I do very much appreciate all the work that's already been done on this. You guys have been fantastic. But maybe add a really brightly colored postcard and mail it to every eligible voter or every eligible citizen, whether they've signed up to vote before or not, in all the affected areas. Really big type, just says, you vote here. You don't have to give them, you know, the whole reasoning. But my greatest concern is that just a few years ago, the National Guard was being used to protect voters from intimidation at polling places. Now, it's scaring the shit out of people, quite frankly. With now that it's being used against citizens and for enforcement, there's going to be a lot of people who don't want to go to the Armory. And it's not just restricted to black and brown people who speak with a non-Wisconsin accent. Given recent events, now it may apply to anyone and everyone. And with that, I'm also going to say my son lives in Minneapolis, and I'm going there this weekend. I'm nervous about it for the first time ever. And so I understand people's concerns about voting here. While the venue itself looks perfect for a larger polling place, it's just not the time to intimidate citizens who wish to vote. And we do want everyone to vote, to be clear. But we don't want to ask them to go to a place that raises concerns for veterans, for people of color, for those not born in the United States, for their friends, their allies, and it doesn't have close access to a bus stop. So there you go. Since tonight's agenda became public, I have been contacted by many Oshkosh residents expressing concern for themselves. A person who looks a lot like me said that. Some working in health and mental health fields, people of color, those working with immigrants, and elected officials. I suspect many of you serving on the council have had similar conversations, and with this much concern, I think that we should try to find a different venue than the Armory. And I apologize for that because I know how hard you worked for that, but frankly, until all these people started calling me, I hadn't realized what a trigger it could be. So I just think of it as a big old building, but, so, that's all.
Thank you. I have no one else registered to speak on this one. City manager, why don't we put it on the floor first? If I get a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is yours.
I neglected to talk about the fact that this deadline is January 18th, so there's a few days, but very few. So our preference would be that some decision is made this evening. And I also neglected to talk about the complete communication campaign, so I don't know if you want Darla to go over that
That'd be-
right now.
Yes,
If you
I
don't
have.
mind. Otherwise, I can if you.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So I'll address everything that I wrote notes on to recent comments. So is regarding the Badger books. So you guys did recently, I believe in 2025, approve the purchase of additional Badger books. So not only will we be shifting, all polling places will be getting more. So I recently actually met with all of the chairpersons and chief inspectors to kind of get their feedback on these polling places and the consolidation and things like that. And all of them said more. Let's get these lines down. So that is definitely information that's going to go out everywhere. The last thing I'm looking to do is make these lines longer and have all of my workers staying much later. So that is not the goal here. Regarding transit for the Armory, I was kind of quickly corresponding with the Director of Transportation, Jim Collins, about this, and, you know, he did kind of remind me that anyone who cannot walk that 1.5 blocks does qualify for the paratransit program, and all they need to do is just request it. So there is that option for anyone that would have a struggle with the bus route there. In regard to the communication plan, we have a very full and detailed communication plan that will start nearly immediately. There is a text message I have to send tonight letting them know what you decide, so this can get in our utility mailing. So there will be a very brightly colored, not a postcard, but it's a big two-sided sheet of paper with a map and with this chart that's been provided to you guys in the resolution. All the information is on there that will go to every single household in Oshkosh. So not just registered voters and not just affected registered voters, all residences in Oshkosh. So that's going to go out. I'm going to be working with Oshkosh Media on, you know, making some videos, social media, things like that. We have the city manager podcast and newsletter. You know, we've got thoughts, signs on retired polling places, all the communication. So I want to let you know, we have really put a lot of thought into pushing this out. Oh, and the last thing I wanted to say with the concern over the Wisconsin Army National Guard building, that is not something that I expected to encounter. I am very used to getting the pushback on, some voters are very uncomfortable voting in churches. They say that there should be a separation of church and state, and some people will actually just all out refuse to vote in churches, and they will use our early in-person voting or the mail-in absentee ballots. It is getting harder and harder and harder to find places that can be a polling place. We used to be in the schools, we can't be in the schools anymore. Finding a building that's big enough and handicap accessible and has the parking, wow, is it a challenge. I cannot tell you how many buildings I've reached out to. I've been very communicative with this council over my search. So you guys have known the struggle that I've been looking at for this. So that's, I think, all I have. Thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Buelow first.
Your last point was my first point, is that you have been very, very communicative. And I was talking to one of my close friends, and she asked, well, why didn't we hear about this until now? And I apologized. I'm like, well, we didn't have a second meeting in December, you know, because of the holidays and everything going on. But the council has been very aware of all the hard work that you're doing and trying to find a place, and then getting another email a day later said, sorry, scratch that. We're going to try this. Oh, sorry, scratch that. So I want to start out with some sincere appreciation for the trouble that's been through. Scott, did you get my email about the overhead shot that I requested? Awesome. You want to throw that up right now for me, please? Thank you. So Rebecca showed me this earlier as an overhead of the Armory when you pull in. And I was talking to a group of people over the weekend, and one of them who is a registered voter, active voter, never misses an election, this would be her new place. And she said to me that she would not go there to vote. And I, just like Darla said, City Clerk Selena said, didn't anticipate that reaction. I truly didn't. But then when I look at it, and it looks militaristic, unfortunately, because of all the equipment that they have there. And so I get it. I'm going to, obviously give everybody else as much space and time as they want, but I understand that there may be a possibility where we could move away from the Armory and reactivate the Senior Center and the First English location. At some point, I'm going to make a motion to do that, but I would like everybody else to be able to talk first.
Thank you for that. Who wants to go next? Mr. Amos?
So for me, first off, I do understand that you guys have put a lot of hard work into this, and I definitely appreciate that. I appreciate you guys looking at ways to make the process more efficient and just easier on voters overall. My biggest concern tonight, though, with this topic is disenfranchisement. And that's the biggest thing for me. Of course, like I've spoken to a lot of people who feel the same way, who has a lot of concerns. Just coming from the background and the community that I come from, voter suppression is a huge thing. And I just want to make sure that as a city, we're not moving in that direction while also trying to figure out ways to make the process more efficient. So that's my biggest thing. If we were adding more locations and that was it, I would be for it 100%, but it's hard for me to vote for closing locations and putting voters in a position where they may not be able to make it to the voting polls to vote and things of that nature. So, and I understand that you guys have addressed like a lot of the concerns when it comes to like ride share, buses, different things of that nature, but there's also an aspect that some people may not have the means to afford those things. And I know that there's other things that they can look into to vote, but some people may not be comfortable with mailing in their vote, and they are just traditionally used to going to the polling station and casting their vote that way. So I just want to make sure that we're not putting certain voters at a disadvantage. So that's my biggest concern.
Go right ahead.
I guess, what would be the impact if we just kept everything the same as last year? Have we reached, I mean, the Culver Center is a new one. Have we reached out to the, however many?
Well, the Culver Center was used.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, now we're just bringing more in.
okay.
I think a lot of the issues that we had with being able to have adequate electricity access, accessibility, those type of things. I mean, I don't know the details for each location, but we would encounter those again. And I don't know if we've ever had an ADA audit here, but I've been part of that and it is, we have to do, just generally, we should do this, but in order to be in compliance with the regulations by the Wisconsin Election Commission and ADA and is it HAVA? I forget. Yeah, we need to make sure that we have accessible places. So I think we would have other challenges.
Sure.
There's also some complaints with locations that might have things that posted or playing on television that look somewhat like political, I don't want to say propaganda, but something that we've received complaints about that. So is it possible? Perhaps, but I don't think we've been in contact with all of those, but we would we would have to spend some time mitigating the challenges that we encountered at those locations before. And I just don't know, it's a lot of accessibility, and I understand the disenfranchised, that I started my career in Milwaukee, and, so I was part of experiencing and helping to mitigate that. But it's a balance, right? It's the ADA accessibility. It's, I think there's ways that we can message a lot of, I just messaged Jim Collins, the transportation director. Can we give free rides on election day on the buses? He said, can I read this? Probably, but which days? The primary, early voting, day of only, the ask may expand. So if it's for one day, I would think it would be like election, on the election days, I think. But we're not going to be able to do it for early in person.
Sure.
But I think that should help somewhat. We're not going to be able to please everyone and, accommodate everything. It's really a balancing.
And one of the things that when I came into this job, I was warned of there's kind of some election issues in Oshkosh, and there's a long lines, and there's a lot of, voters are leaving the lines, things like that. What can you do to make this better? And I have so many ideas, and this is just kind of the start of it. I just would hate to go back into this long line situation. And when we look at the numbers of how many voters actually vote at the polls on election day, wow, is it small. When you really consider how many voters we have in Oshkosh, and percentages between early in person, absentee, by mail, and then at the polls on election day, wow, it is so small. And I say so small, but really I'm looking at this coming from a smaller municipality, expecting these numbers to be sky high. So really it was eye-opening pulling the numbers to see, and I just pulled from November 2024 and April 2025, the last two big ones, so, sorry.
I think other council members have said it, but I'll just reiterate it. You guys did do your due diligence on this. You were very communicative with council. I'm going to say maybe it's my bad for maybe not anticipating some of this stuff. I don't know. With a lot of the pushback I've gotten from the community, a lot of the things I think you've heard tonight, one of the big things for me is the reduction in polling places. And again, I didn't think it was going to be as big of an issue as I thought. I know a lot of people shared some studies with me and everything that they kind of show that any reduction in polling places usually leads to less voting in the next election. I guess my initial question was just to try to be, maybe this was too quick. You guys did your job too good. I don't know. If there's I wanted to come up with a solution that we could just try to get this election out the door in the same way that we've done it in the past, and maybe take the summer to look at some stuff. I don't know. I just kind of spitballing from the mic right now and knowing that we have January 18th is coming up. So that's my.
Mr. Amos, you want to go again?
I just wanted to ask, did we have like any analysis or like a poll that was done to determine like the people that vote at the locations that we're going to close are able to make it to the new location at all? No? Okay.
I don't know how we would ascertain that information.
Like, are we able to like mail something out that they can like mail back in, or?
We certainly could do that, but it wouldn't be something that we could complete in time for the decisions that need to be made. I think, there's a lot of studies. I went through similar in my previous look, the benefit of bringing things together as there's more legal challenges, and as consistency needs to happen, and as, the difficulty not only for clerks, but the poll workers is really, it's growing. You have observers in locations, so you need larger locations because you have 10, 15, 20 observers. So it's not ideal for a lot of people, but I think if we communicate and if we provide, I think we can work with Mr. Collins and come up with an option. And if people need rides, we can get them to the location. I don't know. I mean, if you want to go away from the Armory, yes, we can probably go back to the senior center. That's our building. The challenge with, what is it, the First
English.
First
English, I think that was one of the places that we have electrical, HVAC, is it ADA accessibility too?
It's never
But,
studied.
but we can, we can certainly do that, but and this is for the entire year, right? So whatever decisions made is for this year, but it can change,
Well,
next year.
I just want to say again, I know you guys did a lot of work on this and you worked really hard and diligently on it, so thank you guys for that. But I do just want to make sure that all residents of Oshkosh be able to have the ability to vote and just want to be able to protect that. Yeah. But thank you guys.
Yeah.
Mr. Beal, you're up next.
Since you've seen these places more than I have, one of these places I voted at, many of them I have not, for obvious reasons. Would it be better, I'm going to make, like I said earlier, I'm going to make the motion to not use the Armory building. Would it be better than to use the Whitman Airport facility rather than the First English, like expanding on that? What would be, between you guys' expertise, the best solution for that? I definitely don't want to have people continue to vote in places that are less than ideal, but like Mr. Stevenson said, Deputy Mayor Stevenson said, at least they're familiar. But I also know that we don't want to be holding up counts and stuff on the end of the night. So I know that was like 9 questions wrapped into one. What would be the best solution if I'm going to move to get rid of the Armory?
Yeah, I think, obviously, the Oshkosh Senior Center is one of our buildings. So I think that that's, an option to stay there. As far as the voters that were at First English, I think that Whitman is not a bad option for that. I did not consider that before this moment. I don't think there would be a problem with space with that voter count or parking, or off the top of my head, I can't think of a reason that would not work.
Except that we haven't contacted them.
Well, they're an
have-
established polling place. I
Okay.
mean, Whitman Airport
they're
is
still
an
gonna be
established
used.
polling
Okay.
place. We would just be shifting
Okay.
a higher
More
voter
people.
count there.
Okay.
Mhm.
So in other words, we'd be taking direct input that a citizen brought us today, but I thought we don't listen to people. I'm kidding, sorry. You can cut me off now.
Then, yeah, I would agree that that's probably the best approach, and we can adjust how we set up the location, the number of machines and things like that.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Floam, go right ahead.
So, when it comes to this, generally, I'm not on board with closing polling places. I think it provides confusion for voters, can dampen turnout, can be disenfranchising. I think for a lot of people, especially for people who have been in the city for many years, who have remembered, their place, they always go there. And now that their voting location has been moved, say 6 or in some cases more than a half mile away, they may just not show up. That being said, though, knowing that you guys have a structured plan in place, I'm very hesitant to throw a wrench in that, which could make things even more confusing for voters come election day. If you're comfortable, personally, I don't necessarily have an issue with the optics of the Armory. The only concern I have with it is that it's difficult to find. But I think people could make it work. However, if we're not going to do the Armory, then I'd be okay with expanding Whitman to the capacity that we can, and then reopening the senior center. I do empathize with having, having parts of District 9 have to go all the way to the Armory. That's a bit of a hike, in my opinion. That's a pretty far drive. I used to live on the north side around that area, and having to go down there would be, rather difficult. However, for me, I would just go ahead and say, if you're not going to do the Armory, expanding Whitman would be fine.
I think that's what you want.
Well, just read it off there. All right, so I'll move to amend 26-29 to remove the Armory as a polling location for the districts 9, 13, and 14, to continue to use the senior center for 9 and 13, and then add 14 to the Whitman Airport location, if we're to believe Matt's math here.
Second, is that a motion?
That was a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Sure.
Discussion on the motion to amend. I didn't make any comments on the full motion, but I think it satisfies many concerns that staff and the public have by making this amendment. I think it moves more voters into a very new state-of-the-art building at Whitman Regional Airport that puts the public in that building that the public paid for. It's readily accessible, and there should be, of all the concerns that have been laid out that I'm aware of, that building shouldn't have 0 of those. So that's a good thing too. Senior Center still is our building. It's still centrally located. I think this adjustment does keep that distance traveled to a reasonable distance from there, from kind of those home spots. By the way, Mr. Patton, your map was exceptionally helpful, as well as the information, and I think it helped a little bit with the math up here a little bit, so I appreciate that. With that, I'll support the motion to amend. Any other comments on the motion to amend? I see none. If you'll take the roll on the motion to amend 26-29.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Flow.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
6 carried.
We have the motion as amended now on the floor. Is there any further comments? Mr. Flow?
I just want to thank you again for working through the holidays with this, emailing us, multiple times a day, giving us updates. I really appreciate it. I think there's been a recognized need to kind of clean up and modernize parts of our voting system in the city, so that we can provide better elections for people, have more accessible elections for people, and get results out faster. I believe we can do all of those at the same time, and I want to thank you for your work.
I'll second that.
There's no motion that you can't do that. You can say ditto. Anybody else want to speak on this one? All right. If not, if you'll take the roll on 26-29 as amended.
Spanbauer.
Present.
Flom.
Aye.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
1 present.
Last action item, resolution 26-30, approve Class B beer fermented malt beverage license application for Quick Pantry Pub LLC at 1212 Porter Avenue. I don't have anyone registered to speak on this. If I can take a motion in a second to put on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on this item. Councilmember Bulow.
Give me 1 second, I'll pull it up. If anybody else wants to discuss it, they can, but I'm going to make a motion to lay this over, lay over the resolution to January 27th, as we're continuing to develop the alcohol beverage application process and policy.
Are you making that motion right now?
I will make that motion right now. If anybody wants to stop me, they can.
Second. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Second by Mr. Spanbauer. The motion to lay over generally, I don't think it's discussable, is it? Debatable? Well, I don't generally think it is, but I guess if you want discussion, we can, but do you need it?
No, you
Nope.
just vote.
Okay. Motion to lay over to the January, what did I say, 27th?
27th.
2026 meeting. Mr. Flow?
I just have a super quick point. I'm voting no on laying over because this business has done the work to do the application. I believe we should award it to them now.
Any other commentary or any other questions? Since we allowed one, now you get the floor. Go ahead, Mr. Stevenson.
Do we have a license to issue? We have a,
Class B beer are unlimited.
oh, okay, I was,
Sorry to take her thunder, but
okay. I saw a capital B and for some reason I was thinking, okay, never mind.
any other questions or comments on this one for the motion to lay over? If you'll take the roll on the motion to lay over.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Flom.
No.
Bulow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Milgrauer.
Aye.
5-1.
This one's been laid over to the next meeting. It will come back as an action item on the 27th for us to open the floor and discuss. With that, we move into council discussion, direction to city manager, future agenda items. Discussion and direction to city manager on, we've got a couple topics here. One, discussion, direction to staff regarding the alcohol beverage application policy. That's first up. Do you want us to chat with you, or do you want does staff have information they'd like to give us to start it off before we?
One of you cover it, or I can.
Doesn't matter.
If you could, please.
So what we have been working on following the recent workshop with council is developing a policy for any new alcohol beverage applicants, a supplemental questionnaire that provides just a lot more detail on what those businesses are looking to do. And then we had just kind of some generic ordinance modifications in there. And the ordinance modifications kind of are, they seem a little all over the place, but really it was a true cleanup. If we're going to look at this chapter, let's really look at this chapter. There were a couple typos in there. There were license fees that where really we should be referencing the fee schedule, not the actual fee on its own. Cleaned up the temporary extension of premises application to follow what is actually being done by staff with the special event process. And then we talked about, some different language in there regarding either tax parcel or occupancy limits, things like that, that we just wanted council to take into consideration and give us some direction on how to go forward. Are there things about the policy that you would like changed? This was really our kind of our first stab at it following the workshop.
Deputy Mayor, followed by Councilmember Flow.
A couple of things. I guess I'm hoping it's in the vein of this topic, but we talked a little bit, I think, maybe a year or so ago about being able to take licenses back or like right-sizing license, trying to get, is that, I guess, do we have status or what does that look like right now?
So through the renewal process, there was supposed to be some discussion. There was looking at that, but there are people, and I believe there were a few adjustments through that process. I understand that there might be several that have a full Class B and didn't want to change through the renewal process. We've had some discussions about the legal ability for the council to take away those, and I won't speak for the attorney, but he can fill you in on the possibility or not being able to do that.
So the license 101, the license is a property right that the license holder has. So there's a high burden that the city has if it wants to take that property right back from the license holder is kind of the overarching issue, problem, if you will, for the city in going down that road. So that's the first thing is there has to be very strong reasons, very strong public policy reasons, very strong municipal code reasons, law reasons, all those things, if the city is going to try to take or not renew based on use. The second issue is more practical, and that is the city has the burden of proving that they're not being used in a certain way, which, not to give out all the problems, but certainly that would be a challenge. For example, if someone says, well, they're not using their license, well, the city would have the burden of offering objective proof that that is actually true. And maybe it is, maybe the word on the street is accurate, but certainly when we're dealing with property rights issues, we have a high burden to prove that, and haven't thought about it, but I'm not sure how we would. But, so that's a challenge. I understand certainly the big picture issue that you raised, but there's some practical legal issues that the city would have to try to make those corrections, as you say.
And is that a function of our ordinance or beyond that? It sounds like being able to prove that is, so no fix to our
Has
ordinance.
nothing to do with
Okay.
the condition of our municipal code. That's more of that's a legal issue.
Okay. And then, again, I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but I thought we, or at least I heard word on the street, that there are a handful that were maybe like erroneously given, or, I mean, the ones that like, are there, I guess are there ones out there like that were like double booked or something like that? And can those come back more easily? Do we know anything about that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually. We have taken on a whole massive project in our office that we're about halfway done with, because I also share that concern. In looking at, I noticed some typos in the DOR's site that we had submitted, or that the city had submitted last year, and so I want to actually go through every single license to get that count. Like I said, I'm about halfway through. It is a very large undertaking, so I will have that answer for you soon, and I will let council know right away.
Okay, and I guess that's the only point I wanted to make, is I would like to keep the ball rolling on this.
Yes.
It sounds like maybe we're going to run into some legal hurdles, but I like to work it on both ends. As far as, I don't mean to take up the entire mic, but on the policy end of things, I guess my one thing on, I know we talked about like an economic like impact. My one concern on having, I really like a first come, first serve, or like a review period or something like that. I understand the merit of wanting to like maybe have more jobs per, or a bigger economic development impact on giving a license out, but then I think we're incentivizing people who could pay for the $10,000 one. So I mean, the impact would be for like corporate locations, and like people that are wealthy would maybe have a higher economic threshold, and I don't know if that's where I want to go. I saw Rebecca hit her button. Do you have something to tell me?
Oh, I was just going to make the comment that, that is when you have somebody who can hire an attorney to do that for you and analyze, that is a challenge for people that they just want to open a business. They're just, opening a restaurant they want. But this kind of, in my mind, if we're concerned about people not using their licenses to the full capacity, we need to ask some questions, right? Does it need to be an economic impact statement? No. But are you going to have a restaurant? Are you going to, at least ask something? Because if they're just going to have a restaurant where they're having fermented malt beverages, or they just want wine, there's licenses that don't take from the quota licenses. And then we're not in the situation where, they're being underused. So I know there's some idea that, we don't want to make things overly burdensome. I come from a place where I think our application was like 35 pages long, so I don't think we need to do that. But I think there's talk about a business plan. What are you, some information that helps form exactly what is the appropriate license for what they're doing. Because admittedly, some people don't even know. It's very confusing. You got the the quotes in different areas, the A's, the B's, the C's, it's a lot of things to learn while you're trying to open a business. So that was just my thought. Like, I think, again, getting to the balance, there's a balance. We don't want to ask too much, but I think there needs to be something. And, we talked about the capacity, the occupancy, and then, the one, the premise, just having one on a premise. I think if I sat here, I could probably come up with an exception for each of those things where you would want to make an exception, that something comes in that, so to me, it's more about talk about the business a little bit. What do you want to do? And along those lines, my experience has been with all new applications, you usually have the person come in so you can actually ask them the questions. But that's not something that's been done here, but that's something that you can certainly require.
Can I just ask real quick on that? Like, in person to the clerk or in person to the council?
To the council.
Someone else can go. I do like the one license per parcel thing. I think that fixes a lot of issues. And yes, it sounds like getting up in front of the upstream rather than trying to take them downstream is maybe easier. Is that what we're trying to get at?
You're in a much better legal position at the beginning before you're issued. There's no inherent right to a license. But once they have a license, they have a right to keep it unless you have good reason to take it, so.
Okay. Councilmember Flom.
Thank you. Couple points that I have here. The economic impact questionnaire, personally, I don't really feel like that's the role of government. If we want to ask them for a business plan, that's fine. Talk about your business. What do you want to do? Is a quota license best for you as opposed to an unlimited license like a Class A or a Class C? That's fine. But I think a strict economic impact questionnaire for, somebody who just wants to open a business who hasn't done something like that before, it's going to be very difficult for them to do. The next question I have is about a copy of a floor plan. I know this is not something in state law. I know a number of other municipalities do this for liability reasons. And please help me clarify on this point. We obviously have 3 pillars that need to be cleared before any other thing is issued for a liquor license, that is fire, police, and health. And then also the zoning issues that we have for specific sites that are zoned to serve, food and beverages. Do they have to include a detailed copy of the floor plan? I feel like that's a little bit burdensome in itself as well. If they fail the fire inspection, they fail the fire inspection. They need to have a second exit, things like that. But do I really need, if I'm opening a bar, do I really need to label where my jukebox is going to be? I feel like that's a little bit burdensome and not necessary.
You don't have to press your button. You can go right ahead.
Okay. I think this could be definitely scaled down, but I think
Sure.
this is backup information for when somebody comes and tells you what kind of business they are. If they're saying they're not having a bar, they're going to have, a restaurant with tables and things like that, and they show you a floor plan with a bar in it and one table. How is what they're saying actually going to happen? I mean, I've had floor plans given to me on napkins, so I think we don't need all of these things. People are going to check the entrances and exits, but maybe there's something, and we don't want to make it hard.
Right.
We don't want to
that's-
have people have to hire an architect. This isn't, to get this done.
Right. And I understand other cities. I know Madison is one of them, has something where you have to submit a floor plan. Just because other people do it, and I'm not saying that was the reasoning, just because other people do it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to. I mean, appearing in person is also something that I understand that's the way that it's been done in your prior experience. I have a little bit of pause on that just because, if they have to meet with fire, police, or health, that's fine. But if they have to appear in front of us or in front of you, if that's a necessity, I'm also a little iffy on that. They may not be able to make time in their schedule and whatnot. So those are just my few things that I have a few concerns with. I know we're kind of just pseudo quasi workshopping the study and issuing you direction, but that would be the direction at least I would have. Not speaking for the rest of this body, but those would be my concerns with the policy. Outside of that, I think it does a good job to clean things up.
You can go ahead.
With the background that I've had a bartender's license for over a dozen years now and have paid many, many bills by bartending and operating these, selling what is essentially flavored poison is a privilege, not a right. Alcohol in any level is a poisonous substance that people are free to enjoy, and I they're welcome to do so. So some of the concerns that I've heard is we're making it harder to establish these establishments, especially the smaller startups, having to fill out extra paperwork or duplicate paperwork even, if they've had to submit it here and now they want to submit it to us as well. But I'll also point out that alcohol is extremely profitable. There's a reason why these licenses are sought after and why people want these licenses is because they can make people a lot of money. So I think having some steps in place, it's still, you look, is the juice worth the squeeze, and are we making people squeeze too hard for the juice that they're getting? I think that some of the things in here are maybe a step too far. I have no problem with requiring some sort of a floor plan that, like you said, can even be sketched out. It doesn't have to be an architectural drawing with actual dimensions, but, some sort of a layout that this is how this place is going to look when we're done. I do agree that I don't necessarily think that everybody needs to come in here to council for questioning, but I kind of like the idea that they'd have to come in and talk to you, and you have a reasonable understanding of what business that they're putting forward, because you're ultimately recommending these licenses to us. I don't know if I need to meet with everybody, but I do like the idea that if they're going to be operating a business here in Oshkosh, they should be able to come into City Hall at least once and just say, hey, this is what I'm planning to be doing. The side topic here of even though they're not limited, the beer and fermented alcohol only licenses being used to avoid the felony fines for gaming machines, that's something I'd like to avoid. I don't think that's what we want to be using our alcohol license for, and I think that's a net negative for the communities that they're going to be in. There are plenty of places that have the gaming machines if people want to game hunt, and those places have full alcohol licenses typically. With that, I'll yield.
Sorry, I'm gonna go. Feedback, I like what we've done here so far. This council has had the blessing, in fact, the past couple councils have had the blessing of not having to go through the beauty pageant process of awarding one license when you have multiple applicants. And the beauty pageant process is as good as I can possibly describe it. I understand we've had some previous council members who are still voicing their thoughts as to this is government overreach in terms of asking for information. And that would be one of the things that that person and other people have not ever gone through that process. I don't believe that it should land at the city manager's desk to be the one deciding who gets and who doesn't. I think we were put here to make sometimes interesting, sometimes tough, a lot of times tough decisions, and that should fall to us. Having enough information to make that decision, an informed decision, would be helpful. I agree that maybe this could be pared back a bit, but it's along the right lines of, can you give us something so if there's two competing for one license, that's the situation we're trying to make the decision for. The unlimited license ones, it's really not even that much, but it's really like, when we only have one combo Class B, who gets it and why do they get it? Who brings us the highest and best use? And that's the information that we kind of need. It also would be helpful if they were here in person to help describe how they would be bringing the highest and best use. I think Mr. Praska mentioned it. He used the right terminology for me. It's not an entitlement, it's not a right, it's a privilege to receive one of these from the community. And so it's our job to make sure that we do a little bit of due diligence in terms of our approval process. So I don't think this is overly burdensome to have one. I think it could be pared back a little bit, but I'm not also going to dive too far into the weeds on this. Most of the things on this wouldn't be too far beyond what a bank would require of a business plan, quite honestly, if you were going to a bank to get any sort of debt to open a place. nor would most of this stuff be any different than what's being asked on any of the forms that are required through community development or the health department or any of the other areas that have purview. So I don't think it's overly burdensome. I have no interest in making that happen, right? Making it overly burdensome, but there needs to be a certain amount of information that we can make an informed decision when we're presented with a tough choice. I do like the idea of prohibiting on more than one parcel. I do worry about unintended consequences, and through your review, I'm hoping that maybe you're able to see if there is any of those situations. I'm thinking of 2 establishments in my head. I'm not interested in putting names up, but I'm thinking of 2 just in my head that may sell for consumption as well as may take home, and that type of just conundrum in terms of their licenses and what they get to do. So making sure that we don't have anybody on the books that we would put in jeopardy or that would have to grandfather in. We'd want them to be all good up front, would be my ask on that. Since we're talking about it, and this is under the purview of the liquor license stuff, Mr. Bulow touched on it too, I have a concern for the issuance of a liquor license for, in what appears to be my opinion, to just evade a felony and instead only be subject to a misdemeanor for the use of gambling machines. I don't like it. In fact, I'd actually be interested at some point in the future having a discussion amongst this body if we should attempt to put in our own code to make those devices illegal within the city limits, period, and which case it would make it reviewable by either, our ROPD or attorney's office for citations. I think the DOR is heavily understaffed, and I understand the rules, but they're not, they don't have the ability to actually enforce all the rules, and it might be interesting if we did. I know that's a lot to throw out there, but that's what I got on those. Mr. Stevenson, and then if anybody else.
I forgot the other part of this was the gambling thing. I agree with closing that loophole, if you guys need direction on that. But again, with the, I don't want to get into the beauty pageant thing either. I think that's why, I don't have a problem with a lot of this, but I would like it to be like a check the box. Like you have a site plan, it looks like you're going to sell alcohol there, you are a bar, you've submitted your application, it's a yes or no, and then let's say 2 applicants come in, John's Bar and Joe's Bar. John's Bar put in their application first, they met all the check boxes, it goes to John's Bar now because they were in first, essentially. I mean, I'm trying to take out the guesswork between us looking at John's and Joe's Bar and saying which one of you is better. I would like a lot of these to be a yes or no or an objective thing. Is that, you clicked your button again.
I did, because right now we're working on implementing our new software solution for licensing and permitting, so this is a perfect timing. We can easily put in checkboxes, drop-downs, those type of things. As far as, people do have to submit things for different permits or licenses through the process, so we'll be able to see that information, share that information, those type of things. So we're working on making it simpler for people, but yes, definitely, we can do that, and the software, we can easily adjust if we need to ask different questions or those
Sure.
type of things.
And that was my, again, not that we were, I think you threw a whole list at us on like decide these things, right? And that's what my only bugaboo was that economic development thing, because I just think it's so subjective. The other one's like, yeah, you got a site plan in, and it looks like you're doing what you're going to say you're going to operate for, or you have a food menu in that backs up your, I don't know. Again, I would like just very clear, this is what you're doing, check mark has been established, and then person who got their application in first is the one we're going to select, so we don't have to hear their long business story here.
And before we go on to Councilmember Spanbauer, to just tag on to that just a hair, that's because we don't have that in place, that currently, and that's what council's direction would want to be. That is completely fine. It also has unintended consequences at some point in the future, but it's clean, and council then should vote up or down every application, and that could be something that is also included in the update if council gives that direction, but you're absolutely right. Mr. Spanbar.
I would echo a lot of what has been set up here, and I don't think it's anyone's intent to make this more burdensome, and that's not really necessarily how I'm reading what's being proposed. I think something like the floor plan, the business plan, right, and then sort of the details found underneath that, could that be scaled back a little bit? Possibly, but I think, as the deputy city attorney has said, once these are granted, they are a property right. And so I think making the informed decision as much as we can ahead of time and asking for that information doesn't feel to me like it would be a burden. I think it would just actually be the right thing to do. We're asking for some pretty obvious information, similar to what Mayor Murar said about just taking out debt to start a business, that kind of thing. In terms of other direction, whether the person needs to be present or not, I think they should be either present to the city clerk or us. I think I could perhaps kind of go either way on that. I am not in favor of the loophole, so I think the no two on one parcel, or just I think trying to not getting around that. I would not be in favor of that. Similar to what a couple of the other council members said. I'm trying to think if I had anything else. I think that's it for me for now.
Okay. I don't know anybody else that wants to share. Do you have sufficient guidance to move forward on bringing this back in 2 weeks? Excellent.
Thank you.
It's good when we do that. Next item, direction to staff on rectangular rapidly flashing beacons, installation locations, and the Transformation Committee supports the staff recommendation that's listed in the council agenda. Mr. Collins, I see came up. You want to,
sure,
something you want to start with, and then we'll go from there?
So basically, we've talked about, these are, for those that aren't familiar, the push button flashing yellow lights, mainly for pedestrians and bicyclists. We have installed those throughout the city over the last 10 plus years, starting with the Jackson and Murdoch roundabout, as well as some of the higher use pedestrian crossings, one for the Weeawash Trail, a couple through the university, some at other areas near schools. I know there was recently a council request to look at some of the other roundabouts. Additionally, we've had requests from a couple other locations related to schools, one being the crossing between Traeger School and the 20th Street Y, which they had asked for in the traffic impact analysis, and we had preliminary agreed that was something we could do with some bike and ped funds. Since then, we've had an ask, like I mentioned, the council had some interest in roundabouts. Additionally, we've had an ask for them at the intersection of Murdoch, Finland, and Elmwood, which is a crossing that's used by Oshkosh North students. So we have the council allocates about $50,000 a year in the CIP for bike and pedestrian infrastructure, so that has been a good use of those funds. So what we're recommending in that the Transportation Committee supports would be doing that one near Traeger, and then doing the one at Murdoch, Elmwood, and Vinland. That is a relatively higher use crossing across 3 lanes that are pretty heavily traveled. Those we can fund okay with the CIP money. The crossings at the roundabouts are a little more costly because you're doing 4 crossings versus 1, so that substantially increases the cost. However, we have devised a way where we could do the 2 roundabouts on Witzel in conjunction with those 2 other crossings, so that's what we're recommending. The reason for choosing those 2 would be that those are both under the city's jurisdiction, and that would get you across both ways. The issue with some of the other ones, which I've learned, the Transportation Committee asked me to look into, well, couldn't we do them all? And the ones on the on and off ramps are not under the city jurisdiction, they're under the state's jurisdiction. And the state has a minimal spacing requirement of 1,200 feet between installations of RFBs. That would rule out the two on 9th that are on and off the interstate. And then additionally, in addition to that requirement, they also have a requirement where there can't be line of sight from one set to the next, which obviously you can have line of sight there as well. And the reasoning for that is because if you are looking, forward, you might see one versus the other, and it might be confusing. I know that's something I talked to Chief Smith, and he said when they investigate accidents, that is something that they hear frequently. It's like, well, I thought I saw this, and I was looking at the wrong one or whatever. So anyway, that being said, those would be a lot more complicated, if even possible. And the same thing on State Highway 21. The ones on the interstate would be the state jurisdiction. The two towards the frontage road, we might be able to get permission, but it'd be a lot more complicated. We'd probably have to hire some outside sources to help us with that. And those are probably not as heavily traveled, honestly. So I think this would get us the 4 locations that are in the most heavy demand right now. And we'll fund those through the CIP. In addition, we have some funding available in the traffic signal CIP, which we didn't need this year, or last year, I should say, so we could use that as well. So that would be our recommendation.
Okay. I appreciate staff and Transportation Committee taking up the topic and looking at ways to try to improve pedestrian bicyclist safety. I think these are good locations to start with. I hope we're able to continue to try to look at intersections throughout the community to try to improve. But these are definitely some good ones to start, and just thankful this is in front of us and to give direction to you. So, Councilmember Flown.
Thank you. I know in meetings past this council has expressed its concerns about safety on roundabouts, so I'm happy to see we're getting them in where we can. Personally, I run around my neighborhood a lot, and one of these RFRBs is on 9th Avenue, near, I think it's close to Oregon Street, around there, and I will use that to cross the road every now and then. So these are very helpful. I want to thank the committee for doing their job on this and working on this. So I'm good with putting in these 4 and seeing how it goes. I understand some of the constraints around state-owned roundabouts. It's a bit frustrating to see that. It's just a simple RFRB, but of course it's convoluted state law, so we're going to have to deal with that. But working where we can to improve safety is that's one of our #1 goals here as a council. So I appreciate the work on this, and it's good by me. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
I didn't realize I was up next. Yeah, I'm super in favor of this. Any way we can help expand and improve our pedestrian bike network, I think is a good thing. Maybe I'll get a little bit on a soapbox here. We spend millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars on getting vehicles around our city, and just an absolute fraction of that for bicyclists and pedestrians. So I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
Would there be one more council member who wants to verbally voice their support for this so that staff has 4?
I would like to verbally voice my support for this.
Thank you.
I was even going to push my button.
I'll withdraw mine.
Do you support these as well?
Yes.
Okay. No, appreciate the effort on this, and look forward to those going up when they can.
Thank you.
Okay. Nothing else under discussion or direction to city manager. There's nothing under future agenda items. Does any council members have any announcements or statements that they'd like to make?
I had a question and then the item passed. We talked about the buses on the election day. Can we just keep that maybe on our radar and see if that, I know we just talked about it, so.
Yeah, we've, just for a little we have, traditionally we offer free bus fare one day a year, and it's generally the Friday before back to school, just so parents and students can get used to using the bus or whatever routes. Like Rebecca mentioned, I mean, if we're just doing it the one election day, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I think we'd probably be looking for the election, general election in April and in November most likely would be the ones we're looking at, the actual in-person day.
Yeah,
I would
so
like to verbally vocal support for that.
Wouldn't be, if you're able to, I shouldn't even, because I mentioned that cost shouldn't be a factor, but just so we're aware.
Yeah.
Only because the buses, we know that the way they operate and the fare structure and things like that, just so we're aware of what that is, making informed decisions, but I don't think that anybody up here would change their mind on that support for that.
One day wouldn't be a burden. However, fares do account for about $400,000 a year, which is only probably about 20% of the cost of running the system. I mean, it costs close to $90 an hour to run each route. So, one day won't put a dent in it, but a lot of days will. And then who pays for that? It's taxpayers.
And that's what, I think, making sure that we're informed on what that is, because it is a thing that we should take into consideration, but I don't know that it won't change my mind. But at least we know it going into it, that that's an investment for us. Appreciate that. Any other announcements or statements? Floor is yours. Go right ahead.
So I just want to announce the official launch of the Read More campaign, which is a community-led campaign by Leadership Oshkosh alum to encourage the city as a whole to just read more. So just want to announce that. So it'll be on January 22nd at 4:30. It'll be between 4:30 and 6. The program will start at 5 o'clock, and it will be at 106 Washington Avenue under the dome. So.
And if you want any book recommendations, I'll give any out.
Please send them over.
Any other announcements or statements? Otherwise, city manager, doesn't look like you have any on here. Okay. Otherwise, then the deputy mayor has a long list of things he would like to read off.
I was going to ask, do we go into closed session for all these at once? Or we do? Okay. Then I will read the very long thing. I move to convene in a closed session pursuant to section 19.851E of the Wisconsin state statutes, where competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session to discuss bargaining options, strategy, parameters, and terms related to potential redevelopment and or acquisition of property located at 101 Commerce Street and 201 Pearl Avenue in the city of Oshkosh, commonly known as the City Center, and section 19.851E of the Wisconsin state statutes, where competitive bargaining reasons require closed sessions to discuss bargaining options, strategy, parameters, and terms related to the potential redevelopment and or acquisition of property located at 118 High Avenue in the city of Oshkosh, commonly known as Gunderson property, and section 19.851E of the Wisconsin state statutes, where competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session to discuss bargaining options, strategy, parameters, terms related to the potential redevelopment and or acquisition of property located at 114 High Avenue in the city of Oshkosh, commonly known as Thompson Studio property, and section 19.851E of the Wisconsin state statutes, where competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session to discuss bargaining options, strategy, parameters, and terms related to the memorandum of understanding with GOH Inc. and the potential Grand Opera House, Grand Opera House Inc. and the potential sale, leasing, and or redevelopment of the Grand Opera House, and section 19.851C of the Wisconsin state statutes to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically for the end-of-year review for the city manager.
Take a
Second.
I think you want to say something first, and then I have more information.
Okay. For complete transparency, I will not only be recusing myself for the second, third, and fourth, the 118 High, the 114 High, and the Grand Opera House, I'll be leaving the room as well. So I'll be in this room in my very chair watching the Bucks versus T-Wolves game. So please, nobody send me any spoilers.
And then additionally, for council, included in the packet this evening was background information related to the closed session for the city center. Council, do you have any questions regarding the background material that was presented? Nope. There was also background material presented in regards to the Gunderson property, Thompson Studio property, and Grand Opera House redevelopment. Is there any questions from council that staff can answer regarding the background information? I see none. If you'll take the roll on the motion to go into closed session.
Spanbauer.
Aye.
Blum.
Aye.
Buelow.
Aye.
Stevenson.
Aye.
Amos.
Aye.
Mugrauer.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Take a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.